John Caudwell. He's a Conservative Party supporter and donor. Morning, John.
Good morning,
I don't know if you listened to Five Live, but if you were yesterday, you will have heard, some of thousands of messages, voice notes, calls to our station from people who were utterly disgusted on the whole that this party could have taken place. There were some who said, doesn't really bother me, but the general opinion is that people made sacrifices, stuck to the rules, while the Prime Minister and his colleagues were partying away in their back garden. What do you make of it all?
Well, I think the first thing to say is we do, of course, need to wait for the results of the inquiry. And one of the Conservative MPs, rather supportingly, said that they were all colleagues who were working together inside the building, and so all they were doing was meeting outside. But it's the stupidity of inviting them to bring their own booze and cheese. I mean, I think if they were not partying and they were just meeting outside, even if it was somewhat social, if they were all colleagues working together, then I don't see very much wrong with that.
But listen, that argument doesn't hold. There were workplaces all over the country where people were working incredibly hard, where they were key workers, working well beyond the hours that are normally asked of them. They weren't meeting outside in anyone's garden afterwards for a social.
Yeah, and if that argument doesn't hold and they've broken the rules, that'll come out in the inquiry. And if that comes out in the inquiry, the Prime Minister is in a very difficult situation if he was involved in that. But certainly, if that inquiry finds guilt there, the rules have been broken, somebody needs to be answering for that, and or maybe multiple people need to answer for it.
Doesn't the Prime Minister need to come out now and say whether he was there or not? Certainly that's what Conservative MPs think.
Well, absolutely. I think, if he was there, I think he needs to hold his hands up and apologise to the country and put himself at the mercy of the Tory party and hope that he survives through it. He's in a very difficult position, whichever way you look at it. And this comes on top of other things like the Owen Paterson sleaze, and so it's a very, very difficult couple of months for the Conservative Party where they're not behaving with proper ethical and moral standards. And that needs absolutely sorting out and ruthlessly sorting out, whatever that means.
Not behaving to the appropriate ethical and moral standards. This is from a man you gave £500,000 to the Conservative Party. Do you have any regrets about that now?
No, I absolutely do not. Let me make it clear, first of all, that I'm not a Conservative Party donor. In other words, I'm not a continual. It was a one-off event, and it was a one-off event because I believe the Conservatives desperately need to get in power. I believe that Boris and the Conservatives could sort out the kicking of the can down the road of Brexit, and that was essential to the country. Whether somebody's a Remainer or Brexiteer doesn't matter. We needed to get that sorted out, and I believe the Conservative Party could, and Boris did do that, and I give him full credit for that. So I am a one-off donor. It doesn't mean I wouldn't donate again. I will donate to a party that I believe can help Britain in extreme circumstances.
Well, there are big arguments around whether or not he sorted Brexit out, but that is not why we're here to talk to you today. We can save that for another time. But this question of his own integrity, how can, I guess some people will ask, we have faith in his integrity if he can't be honest about whether he obeyed the rules that he set? And doesn't then that apply to every statement he makes in his political life?
Rachel, that this is typical politician behaviour, where they try and avoid everything and try and coast through and hope that it all dies down.
It's not good enough to say it's typical politician behaviour, is it? Do we just write them off and say all politicians behave like that? We don't hold them to standards that the rest of us are held to?
Well, you just cut in there. I was going on to continue, but you cut me off. I was continuing to say, but that is typical of politicians, but it's not excusable. And politicians need to be held to account, and they need to actually do the right thing, and they need to be honourable, and they need to put their hands up. And how many politicians do that? And that's a sad state of politics in this country.
I would think a lot of politicians, including Conservative MPs, would say, hang on a sec, this is not me. The picture you're painting does not represent me. A lot of people describe Boris Johnson as being unpredictable, unconventional. not always straightforward with the truth, but that is in the phrase priced in, that that people accept that about him, but believe he has other qualities for leadership. Was that something you priced in when you gave that donation?
No, I didn't. I didn't, because for me, it wasn't about Boris Johnson. It was about the difference between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, run by a Marxist leader, an anti-Semitic Marxist.
But you said you gave the money because you thought Boris Johnson was going to sort out Brexit. So it was about Boris Johnson.
Well, no, it wasn't a direct support of Boris. It was a direct support of the Conservative Party.
Right.
But I did believe that Boris could do the job and sort out and get Brexit across the line. So I believed in all the Conservative Party manifesto. I thought they were in a very good position to improve Britain's lot post-Brexit. And it was a support in general of the Conservative Party.
Do you think he's fit to be leader of the party now?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? And I think that's a very debatable question. I would certainly like to see stronger ethics throughout all politicians, or all those politicians that could wear that cap of poor political judgment in terms of ethics and morality. What it needs is a leader at the top who rules the party and the MPs with a rod of iron and said, this behaviour is not acceptable and they need to be held accountable. Can Boris do that? I don't know. Maybe he could, but we've got this question of his own ethics at stake as well.
Well, yeah, and if he is found to be, if it is found that he attended the party, and let's not forget, he has previously made a statement that he knew of no social events like this that took place in Downing Street. But if he was there, then that would suggest he did not tell the truth when he made that previous statement. What should happen to him? We'll get the result of the inquiry within a couple of weeks. Should he immediately resign?
Well, fortunately, that's not for me to decide. But my view is that we have to have a leader that has good moral standards. And if that's not Boris, then it needs to be somebody else.
OK, I think we can read into that what we will. Thank you, John Caudwell. He has donated to the Conservative Party previously, going into the 2019 general election, as he described.